Now, you may remember one of the 7 S's of crime scene investigation was sketching the scene. This is a skill that you need to have as well. But good news, you don't need to be an artist. As long as you have kindergarten level drawing skills, you can sketch a scene. Now, sketching a scene can be a little bit stressful. You have to be fast, tidy, and accurate. Evidence needs to be collected and analyzed by technicians, so there will not be a lot of time for sketching. This is not something that you're going to get a lot of time to do. Measurements need to be made quickly, but without disturbing the evidence or contaminating the crime scene. So you have to get detailed information about things without actually disturbing them in any way. So it is a stressful process. So where do we start? At our crime scene, we are going to create our rough sketch first. So let's talk about our steps for making our rough sketch. First, you're going to draw a rough outline of the area. You're going to include windows represented by rectangles in the wall and doors represented by openings in the outline with a little line coming off of them. So you can see in my little rough sketch below, it's a rectangular room. It has 1 door in it and it has 3 windows. For step 2, you're going to measure the room or space in which the crime occurred and label the dimensions on the sketch. So I measured my room and it was 32 feet by 26 feet. Now I didn't label the other sides because they were presumably the same, but if this room was not perfectly rectangular, I would have labeled them as well. For step 3, you're going to sketch in the furniture and the locations of evidence using basic shapes. So this is where you don't have to be an artist comes in. You can see there is a stick figure. I have some ovals, some rectangles, some squares, some circles, all of those basic shapes. Now you will want to roughly measure furniture and evidence. It is not going to need to be completely to scale, but it should be relative to size. You can see that all of the items in this room are not the same size as each other. Are they perfectly accurate? No, but relatively they are correct. After you've done that, you're going to label each item in the diagram with a number or letter and then make a key. So this is why we don't have to be an amazing artist, because we are going to have a key. So we now know those little circles that we see coming from the body are actually bloody footprints. And that circle in the bottom right corner is an overturned chair. We have our victim's body, a table, a couch, a kitchenette, an end table. We make our key and label everything. Here I chose to use letters, but you could just as easily use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if you wanted to. Step 5 is measuring from fixed points. So let's explain this one a little more. You are going to make 2 measurements from fixed, meaning not movable points, to each piece of evidence. So you can see in my picture below, we have our body, and my fixed points I chose were the corner of the room to the tip of the victim's head, and then the edge of the window to the victim's head. The corner of the room and the window are not going to move, so they count as fixed points. Now, these measurements may be noted on your rough sketch like you see in my picture, but some investigators prefer to just keep a separate list of measurements so that their rough sketch doesn't get overwhelming. Choice is yours. Now, the last step in the rough sketch process is to label the diagram with the north direction arrow, the date, time, location, and victim's name if known. And this is the date, time, location you are making this sketch. Now, if the victim is unknown, we don't know what their name is, male individuals are given the name John Doe, and female individuals are given the name Jane Doe until we know more. Now, just to give you kind of a picture of what we're talking about, some examples of rough sketches, you can see that this person, these lines aren't perfectly straight. They did draw it a little differently than we're talking about, but you can see that this is a whole area, not just one room, so it required more things to be drawn in there. Similarly, this person was only looking at one room. They did choose to add a little extra detail to the bed, for example, but overall kept it pretty simple. Now, after the rough sketch is done, we need to talk about the final sketch. So there is never a second chance to sketch a scene. So all the information must be noted before leaving. You cannot leave that crime scene until you have your rough sketch. Now, the final sketch, though, is going to be completed after leaving the crime scene back at the lab. The final sketch will be drawn with a ruler to scale and must be done on graph paper or computer generated. For our class, we will be using graph paper because we don't have lab sketching software, but as computers have improved, they are often computer generated nowadays. Now, no measurement should be shown on your final sketch because everything will be drawn to scale. So you don't put the measurements for the room, you don't put those fixed point measurements because you're going to draw everything to scale. So our final sketch is going to include all of the following. It's going to include a scale of distance. For example, 1 centimeter equals 2 feet. And then in your drawing, you are going to use that scale. So if the room was 16 feet on your picture, it is going to be 8 centimeters. So we are making our scale of distance and drawing everything accurately. You're going to do date, time, and location of the crime. This should just be basically copied right from your rough sketch. Name of the victim, once again, copied from your rough sketch. You are also going to include your name and the initials and your initials since you were the person making the sketch, but this is what certifies if this needs to get presented in court that you would be the person to go talk about it. You're going to put that north heading on your diagram, and you're going to put your evidence labels. In our example, it was A through F, and the key. The key does still go on your final sketch. So a final sketch is a completely neat and accurate representation of the crime scene that could be presented in court to give jurors an idea of where everything occurred from, and to also put that evidence in context. Now you're going to get some practice in class sketching some crime scenes, but once again, you don't have to be an artist. You just need to be able to draw basic shapes and use a ruler. You've got this.